Hello, everyone. Welcome back for another installment. Recently, in the broader area that I am in Pennsylvania, there was a record show, as happens monthly, with the Keystone Record Collectors. So I got down there and decided to see what I couldn't find as I try to broaden my collection and my listening library, as you know, not only to include jazz music and different labels of jazz music or classic rock, but also to go a bit further into other labels, other styles of jazz, and also to start to explore blues. And over the past 2 weeks, I had tried to just compile some research, both through like a critical lens. What does a music critic say? And also through lens of the community about albums that I could sort of cherry pick or shortlist from psych rock, jazz music going into the 70s, and also blues. And I came up with about 40 albums in each category. Then I actually listened to them, and based on my listening, I came up with the top priority albums that I wanted to find, which were, I would say, about uh, about half jazz, about maybe a third blues, and the rest psych rock. So with that, I will show you what I did find of those top priority albums. So getting into it is one that I've known for a little while, since I listened to anything that Miles Davis did, beyond 1970, and that's Miles Davis Get Up With It. This is a 2-disc LP on the Columbia 1970s label, and this particular copy is a 1975, so original, but it's stickered with a price code PG in that red sticker in the corner there. That some copies don't have. I think the exact code on this is PG 33236, which is on top of the original price code. But anyway, super clean, VG plus copy of this, if such a thing does exist. And this one, guys, is a funky record. You're going to hear Miles Davis, but he's not playing the trumpet all the time. And you'll hear songs where, for instance, such as Rated X or Maisha, my favorites in Rated X, Miles Davis on the organ. Maisha, there are a lot of synths in there. And this is going to be more along the lines of funk music or kind of acid jazz music, very, very different from things that he did before. Probably, if anything, the album is a little mashed together because I think it comes from sessions that were recorded over like a 3 to 5 year period. So it's not one consistent group, but it's not meant to present like that sort of jazz album either. So I think it has to be, approached correctly. Miles Davis was always a popular artist. It's just that the music that he did, as it got later into the 70s and onwards, much of that is more recognizable as popular music when you use today's popular music as a comparator. So I think part of it is a matter of that context, because in 1959, I bet Kind of Blue was seen as very commercially viable. So this anyway is a very good album. I don't think there would be a better pressing to pick up, and found it on the low at the record show. Let's see exactly how many songs Miles Davis plays trumpet on this album. 3. So there are 5 songs where he plays trumpet. So 3 songs on the album where Miles Davis is playing the organ, playing the keyboard, not playing the trumpet. Another one I found was The Bridge by Sonny Rollins, which is known as his famous album aside from Saxophone Colossus. At least it's the second one that I ever heard of. And this one is on the RCA label. This is an OG mono here, and the mono sound on this particular album, I would say, it doesn't have as much sound stage as some recordings. Maybe the saxophone sounds a little bloated, but overall it's very warm and nice. And I'm sure it sounds better than getting some, Dole 180 gram version or whatever. So in any case, this one super clean and still had the original sticker that it was sold with. I bought it from a guy who was there from Scranton, Pennsylvania. So I had driven down, I guess, about 3 hours towards southern central Pennsylvania to sell some records there, and negotiated what I thought was a fair price for it. This particular one was a very, tender album. There's a lot of that soft and sensitive playing, along with Jim Hall on the jazz guitar as well, electric jazz guitar. And that is going to be more conducive for listening to somebody who, listens to like a, third stream music or maybe Brazilian jazz. It is unmistakably hard bop, but it definitely has a bit of that third stream sound in terms of like the harmonies and the voicing. So very cool album, and not something that I knew was really in Sonny Rollins' wheelhouse. I think he did a lot of albums. He is a very high volume musician, still walks the earth. But some of those albums they came off as going through the motions, but the ones where it really clicked are masterpieces, and I think this is one of the great works of Sonny Rollins. That's not a very controversial statement. Very glad to have this OG here. Now we got some of that blues. So one of the blues albums I was looking for was Blues Piano. That was Champion Jacques Dupree's Blues from the Gutter, and this one basically is sort of like a parlor blues style of music played on the piano. And he's talking about strife. He's talking about like the seedy underbelly. He's talking about drug addiction and all these types of topics, poverty. So it is a little more socially conscious in a way, at least actively so, than other blues music. But it's not protest music or anything. It's just socially conscious of the problems in those communities, and I thought it just came across very authentically in terms of the way that there is the blues piano. You can definitely hear some of that in any piano songs that the Rolling Stones did, like Exile on Main Street. I definitely hear a resemblance or some similarity between this and then later some piano driven blues and things in Exile on Main Street. So kind of a similar sound there, and a good inroads to blues for those who like the piano. This particular pressing. Well, there's this, I guess, Junker Blues is one of the very good songs on it. Probably call that the key track. Then there was the stereo disc. So this particular pressing is from 1958. This is an OG on the Green Atlantic label in stereo, and it displays in gold that you're getting a stereo disc here. So the story of how I came across this is really, really quite funny, because there's a gentleman there who had put up a stand and had he says he has a whole box of blues. So I go to look at this box of blues music, and many of the records are not in sleeves, or they're quite worn, or just not in the condition that I'd be looking for something in. And I'm about to get to the very end of the box, and in the very end of the box I get to the last record, and it's this, and he's asking $25 for it. So I take it out to examine the condition, and he takes it from me. And he says, this record is scratched. So I was going to maybe ask for $15 to say it's clean, but it's been played. But I didn't even get there. He takes the record from me, he looks at it, and he says, this record is scratched because there are some light hairlines on it and things. And he says, I'm going to reduce it, and I can't take any more than $5. So I got this for $5, VPI'd it, and there's no audible scratching on the record. Maybe a little bit of outer groove distortion on side one, due to being played on gear that was misaligned, but still I think comfortably in strong VG to VG plus territory, depending on what exact grading system you're using. The next blues album that I found was Big Joe Williams' Piney Woods Blues. This is on the Delmark label. This is part of the Roots of Jazz series on Delmark. I also have the Hoodoo Man Blues from that series, Virginia Wells. This particular one is pure blues. It's acoustic. It's all acoustic blues, folk blues, and he's playing the classic, Delta style songs. So he does "Someday Baby," which is recognizable as "Trouble No More" to Allman Brothers fans. There's also there's also Peaches Blues, which you'll know about from R.L. Burnside. You have Peach Orchard Mama and Mellow Peaches, which both resemble Peaches by R.L. Burnside. And you also have No More Whiskey, one of the great ones. So this is a great one on the Delmark label. This version, I looked to profile it on, cross-referencing against Discogs and things as I usually would. And I basically got it down to two versions, given the information that was available online, either a 1969 version or a 1990 version, based on the fact that it's from the Roots of Jazz series and it's in like an old style tip-on jacket with no barcode. I'm guessing it's the 1969. But this is a really fun listen, and it goes back to that pure blues, and it's a way to explore what existed, before electric, sort of, in a country blues style, and that's largely with blues music what I've tended to prefer, because it's been closer to core. And if I want to listen to electric blues, I would listen to, the Allman Brothers. So for me, this was a real treat to find this. I do have one more blues album here, which I'll pull up in the ordering here. Pull up in the queue. We have here this Hound Dog Taylor and the House Rockers. This is self-titled, and this is on the Alligator label. So this is their OG on the Alligator label from Chicago. As I understand it, there were some blues enthusiasts in Chicago who decided to make their own label and record their own blues artists from like juke joint blues and slide guitar that they really liked. And one of their favorites was this Hound Dog Taylor. And on this album, there's a key song, I would say, Where's My Wig? There's also the 44 Blues, and I think he does another song that Allman Brothers also do. No, it's Hurts Me Too. He does Hurts Me Too, which was recognizable from like, Grateful Dead, early 70s and that sort of thing. So maybe the vocal on this one is a little jarring. It's a bit of an attack. But the album is a good listen for the slide guitar alone, and it's a very good recorded example of what electric blues was like before it was taken into broader commercial hands or into British hands. Of course, it was recorded in '71, but it's documenting a style that I am supposing was a bit more frozen or a bit more stagnant in time. So very, very cool to find that. That was my first find. Then I have the Ogden's Gone Flake, the Not Gone Flake album. This one is a departure from the rest. There were really a few psychedelic albums I was searching for. Maybe this one, Morgan. And so with these, maybe Barbed Wire Sandwich, Andromeda. I think that I looked into really a bunch of psych albums, and there were some of them that kind of struck me as a bit immature in their sound. And there's no right or wrong, way to listen to music or to say, that one form of music is superior or not. There's no right or wrong choice here. But that kind of sound, maybe more youthful sound of the music, didn't resonate as much, and I think I was looking for something which is more prog focused, again as a matter of personal preference, and which had that the fuzz and the hard panning, and which had like more introspective kinds of vocals and sensory experience that went along with it. And this Not Gone Flake is very nice to accomplish that. This one is again one of the psych prog, it's British, so it's a little more on the eccentric side. Those listeners over there at that time. This one is something that I did not usually buy. It's colored vinyl. This one in particular is red vinyl. So I looked it up when I got back. It's an Italian bootleg from the 90s. And as I understand, when it comes to like these psych releases and stuff, of course, unless you have the opportunity to buy them at a reasonable price, really you're looking at bootlegs, and you can get an EU bootleg that you're doing pretty good in terms of sound. And this one had like all the stereo color, all the panning, all the hot fuzz, and just was like melt your face off, acid rock, psych music. And so I've been very much enjoying listening to this one as well. And I think I'm going to give this one a play right after we end up the video here. So thanks everybody for watching. Keep an eye out for more, and we'll be continuing to share those finds and this exploration as I look to expand and not just use record collecting or record listening as a way to listen to music that I already know in majority. Now I'm getting to a stage where the things that I already know that I want to have on vinyl, the majority of them I have. And so there are a few that I'll still be looking out for, but there's also this opportunity to discover and focus more time on the things that I still have yet to learn, the albums that I still have yet to fully know, and I look forward to bringing you all along on the journey here.